An important part of the ecology that helps support imaginative achievement in the arts are museum curators and private collectors. In the field of jewellery, the majority of these are women. Their scholarship and sustained patronage through time can give visibility to innovative designers and lay the foundation for important museum collections. This dialogue between the designer, the curator and collector can help reveal the infinitely varied forms that jewellery has taken through time and its role in revealing the stories of some very distinct human lives and societies. This short talk interweaves conversations with museum curators with discussions about and conversations with some private collectors. Two good starting points for anybody wanting to discover more about the art of jewellery would be the William and Judith Bollinger Jewellery Gallery at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London and the newly created Jewellery Gallery at Aberdeen Art Gallery. Although many other museums have wonderful jewellery collections, the British Museum, the Ashmolean, the Fitzwilliam, for example, both Aberdeen and the V&A are distinguished by having the only dedicated jewellery galleries in UK museums that are freely accessible. To prepare for the V&A visit, a copy of the V&A curator Claire Phillips's book on the collection, first edition published in 2000, updated in 2008, and her 1996 book Jewellery from Antiquity to the Present, which is part of the excellent affordable Thames and Hudson World of Art series, both provide a good general introduction. The V&A collection comprises over 3,000 pieces, from early Celtic metalwork, such as the Shannon Grove Gorget, to contemporary 20th century masterpieces, such as the Wendy Ramshaw's White Queen ring set. This work was inspired by Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, and takes the form of a small chess piece cut from white perspex, and bears symbols, crown and sceptre, which reflect authority. The 16 gold and enamel rings of linear shapes, open and overlaid, appear in random, changeable formations and represent confusion and disorder. Back in the 1970s, an IBM computer analysed how many combinations it could be worn in, and came back with an almost infinite figure, like basic notes from music that can endlessly be arranged into new themes and variations. In some ways, this work can stand as a metaphor for jewellery collections in museums, which, as new individuals study and work with them, open new and infinitely expanding doors onto human culture and expression. In 2008, the V&A commissioned architect Eva Jurishna to redesign their jewellery gallery with the generous support of the Bollinger family. The dazzling double-height space centres on a dramatic and technologically advanced curved glass central showcase, which creates a wonderful serpentine line down the centre of the space. The gallery was refurbished in 2018. Jurishna, being Czech-born, a culture with a fabulous glass-making tradition, was able to harness the latest material fabrication technology. Glass is a regular feature of her design, something visible with this contemporary commission in her native Czech Republic for the Thomas Barter Study Centre in Zlín. Christine Roux, art gallery and museums manager in Aberdeen, has been responsible for building much of that museum's jewellery collection and led on the creation of a dedicated gallery space, which opened in 2019. She remembers as a child looking through her grandmother's jewellery box, captivated by the bright colours of her glass beads and brooches. Growing up, her favourite book was the Italian Guido Grigoretti's Jewellery Through the Ages, published in 1969. As Roux says, I spent many a happy hour poring over the coloured plates, copying or tracing the designs. And she goes on to say, joining the art gallery as a curator of applied art gave me the wonderful opportunity to curate and develop a public jewellery collection. When she joined, there were some very fine existing core modern pieces, such as Malcolm Appleby's gold feather necklace, optical brooches by Eric Spiller, along with a collection of historic jewellery. Roux continues, my early collecting focused on the non-precious materials jewellers were turning to, and, amongst my earliest acquisitions, was a group of 1970s resin and acrylic pieces by Susanna Heron. Heron is an influential artist and designer whose precisely fashioned perspex jewellery and lightworks in collaboration with photographer David Ward were at the vanguard of what subsequently became known as the new jewellery movement in the 60s and 70s. The Jubilee necklace illustrated, for example, was first shown at the V&A, and examples can be found in the collections of the Crafts Council in London, the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam, and the Museum of Art and Design in New York. From the late 1970s, Heron's own work moved away from jewellery into drawing, sculpture, and site-specific architectural commissions, such as this recent stone drawing for St John's College, Oxford. The artist says, "I think of art as a living thing and a generator of ideas. Whether small and intimate for galleries or site-specific for public spaces, my work is intended to be quiet, accumulative, and interactive with people during their everyday lives. I have employed human scale, desire, tactile material, beauty, light, drawing, craft skills, prose, photography, and music to this end." For Rue and her colleagues, reimagining the collection's galleries as part of an extensive development of the museum brought the opportunity to devote a new space solely for the jewellery collection. Bespoke display cases with discreet internal lighting are cantilevered off the perimeter walls, with each case pursuing a specific theme. Cases are also fully visible to anybody moving through the main spaces of the gallery, occupying an atrium-style space on the third floor, which emphasises a sense of the collection being an integral part of the wider art collection of the museum, whilst remaining available as a discrete jewellery study collection. Aberdeen has an enviable reputation for collecting contemporary art, dating back to its 19th century foundation, when an endowment from granite merchant and art collector Alexander MacDonald came with a stipulation that the money he left could only be used to acquire artworks less than 25 years old. Rue and her colleagues decided it was also a natural and appropriate principle for jewellery collections. Wendy Ramshaw's standout interactive pin collection, Fragments with Cones too, for example, was acquired within months of its creation. Christine agreed to nominate one of her key pieces from the collection. This is a round, oxidised silver brooch with red felt cells by Dorothy Hogg from her 2003 Artery series. Christine describes this. The design has a restrained ambiguity, but the title alludes to the blood system, the red colour symbolic of blood corpuscles, and the branching design reminiscent of the lungs' bronchioles. In the midst of a pandemic caused by a virus which impedes our very ability to breathe, this brooch is particularly poignant. Dorothy has had a profound influence on Scottish jewellery design through her own work and curatorship. She also led the jewellery and silversmithing department at Edinburgh College of Art for over 20 years, transforming the approach to jewellery education and mentoring a cohort of exceptional graduates. Claire Phillips, in a recent interview, reflected on her approach to collecting jewellery for the V&A. "I look for beauty and fine craftsmanship, for individuality and a distinctive voice, and for an integrity or fulfilment of intentions. Innovation and quirkiness can be brilliant, but concepts need to be resolved, ideas followed through. I look for an understanding of materials and an ability to get the best from them, for strength, for softness. It's hard to list or categorise, and can be quite paradoxical. Sometimes the decision is agonising, sometimes quickly made." Phillips also pointed out that, as is the case with many museum collections, a large number of works started life in private collections, which subsequently were gifted or bequeathed to the museum. Medieval historian, jewellery scholar and collector Dame Joan Evans, 1893 to 1977, gave over 600 pieces, mostly dating from pre-1800 to the museum between 1933 and 1975. Evans was the first female president of the Society of Antiquaries, and her own book, A History of Jewellery 1100 to 1870, was published by Faber and Faber in 1953 and remains in print. In 2014, over 40 works of important contemporary European art jewellery from the collection of Swiss collector Louise Clapiche were given to the museum, which included this beautiful gold and iron brooch by the Italian designer Anna Maria Zanella. Zanella is one of a long line of gifted North Italian designers who work in new ways with gold, though she is one of the few women. Her freely worked gold surfaces, sometimes combined, as here, with other materials, have an expressive, improvised quality, not always associated with gold jewellery. She says, "Each piece is for me a kind of autobiography, stemming from a different constructional arrangement, like a continuous metamorphosis, an unfinished intellectual play." Another layer of generous private patronage is exemplified by this gift of a gold and platinum brooch by the London goldsmith Jacqueline Mina. This was one of several modern British jewels gifted to the V&A by an anonymous donor in memory of Valerie Stewart. Stewart was a director of the former Oxford Gallery, a gallery which became an important source of well-designed modern jewellery for many people in the 1970s and 1980s. The argument for a well-researched, interpreted and displayed museum jewellery collection that is given its own central space and place in a museum building is powerfully made by reviewing these two museum collections and some of the private patrons who have contributed their works. Innovative artists and potential patrons are encouraged by museum work of this calibre to consider jewellery as an art that has and continues to have cultural significance, offering insight into the ever-fascinating expression of what it is to be human. Even if female collectors such as Evans once described her jewellery studies notoriously thus in her autobiography, "The civilization of an age may be recorded in the history of trivial things." Nevertheless, as our culture moves ever further away from eliding the adjectives feminine, trivial, decorative, so perhaps we can also move further away from classifying jewellery as a minor art. I leave the final words to an active patron of jewellery. "I buy jewellery to wear, and I try to wear a piece every day. I see myself as a modern woman, and enjoy galleries and makers who are willing to innovate and challenge while always building on a solid base of skill. I buy individual pieces which I think express my personality. The result tends to provoke interesting conversations, which I enjoy."